Welcome everyone. In this video we're going to take a look at how to debug in Google Apps Script, and specifically we're going to take a look at how to use the debugger, how to use the logger, and how to log to a sheet in case either of those options don't work for you. So let's jump straight into it with how to use the debugger. So if we have our sheet here, this one is a list of names and a list of emails, and we're going to send emails to these people welcoming them for signing up. So we have our script here. It's going to grab the sheet, going to get that data and then loop through it and send those emails. And right now it's not working and we know what the bugs are, but let's pretend we don't and take a look at what happens. So first, if we run this, we're going to see we're getting this error, execute to failed to send an email to no recipient. So our first option is to use the debugger. So on the left of each code line, we can toggle this purple dot and that will stop the code at this line or right above the line, so to say. So it'll execute this line, but not the one right above it. So let's do this one here with email, so we can take a look at that. So now instead of going to run, we're going to go debug here at the top, and it opens up this right panel, which will show us the data and the local variables that we have when we're running this script. So let's start by taking a look at this row. So we can see email and name are still undefined. Email and name are undefined. That's because it hasn't executed this line yet. It's just executed the one before it, but we can go into row and take a look at the data here. So this helps us see that index 0 is James and index 1 is the email. So we're going to go ahead and change this from index 2 to index 1, and then we'll go ahead and keep running. And so it knows it's going to error out or it's erroring out, and so that's why it's stopping here. So we're going to stop it because the change we made doesn't take effect until we run it again. So let's run it again and we can see, hey, we're getting the right values for that. And we can stop it right before we send that email. So let's add another dot. Hit resume, and now it'll stop. We can see, hey, email and name are being defined now, so we know we've fixed that bug. So this is the first way to debug in Google Apps Script, is using the debugger and changing these little dots. There's ways you can do where you can step over certain ones. You can say, hey, I want to skip this function, or maybe I need to jump into different functions. We're not going to get into that in this video. This is just an easy way to start debugging. So option 2 is to use the logger. Honestly, if we're being real, I use the logger more than I should. Like, I should use debugger more, but I end up just doing everything in the log. So this can be helpful if you're running your script live or it's already deployed or you have it on a repeating timer, because the logs will stick around after. So to use the logger, we're going to do Logger.log, and then you can log whatever data you pass in here. So we can make this a string, so we can say like new loop, and let's put in I. Now we could just put in the row, but especially when you're logging, I find it helpful to do json.stringify to make that a little easier to see, and then you can also copy and paste out of the log to actually get some information. So we can just run this instead of doing the debug, and here in the log, we're going to see that data, and this is maybe where we're going to find this second bug. We're going to say, oh, we went through this 5 times, and it's still wanting to do 1, so hey, this should be less than instead of less than or equal to. And the part where this gets helpful is, instead of just seeing it here, you can also come over to executions. And in these executions, you'll get access to the log. And this sticks around for about 7 days or maybe 14 days, I forget. Now, the third and final way that I use to debug my scripts is to use a separate function that sends the data to a spreadsheet itself. And this is really helpful if you've published your script and it's being triggered by someone or something else. For example, if you have a webhook that Google Scripts is catching, it won't necessarily show you the logs because it could be someone else executing it. So I think for security reasons, they're blocking it down. But you can get around that by, instead of logging to the log, you can log to a spreadsheet. So I have this function here, log to sheet, and it takes some data and adds it to this log sheet here. So let's grab this. So we'll do log to sheet, and we'll just grab the row. So now when we run this, we're not going to see anything here. Instead, when we come over to this log sheet, we get the timestamp, and right now we're just getting an object ID, so let's just change that to stringify the row. All right, let's try that one more time. There we go. Now we're getting some data. So again, this one isn't really helpful for real-time debugging. This is more for if you're working with webhooks or third parties or other people triggering the script that you still need to have some sort of record of or debug. So that's 3 different ways to debug in Google Apps Script. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd love to see how other people are debugging as well as what tools I missed or anything you think that should be included.